Today we're going to talk about Lucifer, the devil, and Satan, and how knowing the difference between the three is very important. The term lightbringer is a proper noun in English, and it is actually capitalized. In Greco-Roman civilization, it was often personified and considered a god. In some versions, considered the son of Aura, who is a goddess, a Roman goddess of dawn, and this would be an aspect of night that they called Noctifer, the night bringer. Aurora in the Greek pantheon was referred to as Eos. Lucifer is connected to Venus. Venus is known as the sun of the morning because before the sun comes up, it's the brightest star or light in the sky. Back in the ancient times, Venus was actually known as planet Lucifer. Now, in a nutshell, what is Lucifer? Lucifer is actually an entity of light that bears feminine energy, but it may not be a woman. We know that Lucifer is beyond the light spectrum, so Lucifer would be considered a ultraviolet being. Lucifer's job was to push knowledge and potential to man. Lucifer is beyond the 8th dimension. It should also be noted that Lucifer and Michael are actually twins. Michael is the highest form of protection, one of the best warriors. Lucifer is the highest form of light, one of the best knowledge seekers and the knowledge bringers. Lucifer is actually a part of the Galactic Council. Lucifer is who you consider to be the strategizer on the Galactic Council. I find it quite ironic. I just did a video on Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor is a being who landed in the Capitol and told the US president at the time, Eisenhower, that he was from the planet Venus, and he came down here with a message towards humanity. It should also be noted that Lucifer was not connected to Satan or the devil until the King James Version of the Bible. The entity's name was subsequently absorbed into Christianity as the name for the devil. Now, what is Satan? Satan is a fourth dimensional energy. Satan is extraterrestrial. Satan is actually a title that you achieve. And the people who are considered Satanists, they know this. I've said this before. Satanists do not worship any specific entity. A Satanist's job is to become an entity that people worship. It's common knowledge that a long time ago, that the term Satan actually meant adversary, an adversary against the Most High. A Satanist uses his ego or its ego to fight against the spirit. And that's how these Satanists decided to break away from the Galactic Council. Satanists use a lot of rituals, a lot of dark magic to conjure up energy. This is how they absorb people's energy from around them and energy from other living beings that are around them as well. This group of extraterrestrials often influence and infiltrate high-ranking society members in order to fulfill their agendas. Now we'll talk about what the devil is. The devil is actually an illusion on the 3rd dimension because it's a mindset. So anyone can be a devil by inheriting negative thoughts. So the devil essentially is your ego. Your ego wants you to stay the same. Your ego is stubborn. Your ego is complacent. Your ego is lazy. Your ego is what you consider the Antichrist. Your ego stops you from reaching Christ consciousness. It also stops you from learning the necessary things you need to learn in life. The devil or your ego wants you to remain as human as possible. It does not want you to step into your spiritual divinity. Anything that stops you from reaching spiritual enlightenment will be considered the devil. Your ego is what you consider the Antichrist. Today, we're going to be talking about the 9 realms of Norse mythology, the Nephilim, and the Watchers. Now, we know that fallen angel is never actually used in the Bible or the Aramaic scriptures. They do refer to the falling and the descent though. The Bible states that all angels are sinless but created with free will. And with this free will, if they choose to sin, comes great consequences. 3 consequences that exist for them are being confined in the primordial abyss, being imprisoned in Tartarus, and the rest lose their purity and their heavenly status, and they are let loose on humanity. Now, are fallen angels demons? According to the Christian belief, yes, but in the Bible, they don't actually call them that. It isn't till the first Enoch. The book of Enoch goes into great details about demons, which occurred around 300 BC. And this book is considered controversial and non-canon because of the great detail it goes into. It talks about how 200 angels had sexual relations with women, and these women were transformed into bird-like creatures, and they gave birth to the Nephilim. Now, it is said that the origin of all sin, according to Enoch, came from the Nephilim and not from Adam and Eve in the temptation of the forbidden fruit. The Bible mentions Enoch one time, and it pretty much says how Enoch was devoted to God and God brought Enoch into heaven. Now, the only original copies left of the book of Enoch are the Ethiopian copies, which are said to be some of the last original copies. First Enoch exposes the sins of the Watchers. Now, the Watchers' job were to watch over humanity and influence humanity under God's rule, pretty much, in God's image. The book of Daniel mentions them about 3 times. One time it actually states that the one angels that he is watching are the holy ones, meaning there's obviously room for unholy ones. Now, the book of the Watchers took place before the great flood, probably several hundred years after the creation. This is where humans and angels actually lived and coexisted. It wasn't out of the ordinary to see humans and angels actually, intermingling, conversating. It wasn't until Yakan, who was the first watcher to actually feel the lustful emotions, presented his plan to Samyaza, who later presented the plan to the other watchers, and the other watchers actually agreed into conspiring to have sexual activities with the women, pretty much to birth their own children from these women. They were so devoted to the plan that they even swore an oath to face the consequences together in a union. Now, the Watchers taught just about everything spiritual to the women. Azazel taught the art of war, cosmetic, art itself, violence, promiscuity, and all type of other things that were considered, forbidden. Now, the women who gave birth to the Nephilim, like I said, they transformed into bird-like creatures because they were mating with beings of heavenly vibration. So it caused their personal vibration to be manipulated as well as their DNA. Now, the Nephilim actually reside in one of the oldest realms out of the 9 in Norse mythology. One of the realms of Norse mythology is Jotunheim, which is the realm of the frost giants. Alfheim, which is the home of the light elves who actually push light spiritual magic and fight off dark magic. Alfheim, which is the home of the light elves, like I just said. Vanheim, which is the home of the Vanir, which is another family of Norse gods. They actually went to war with the Asgardians before, and the conflict was resolved. Then you have, like I said, Niflheim, one of the oldest, which is the realm of primordial land, ice, mist, and snow. So it's the primordial lands of ice, mist, and snow. In between these realms is Midgard, where we reside. After that is Muspelheim. Now, Muspelheim is the primordial realm of fire, where the fire giants live. If you've heard the story about the war between Surtur and Enlil, you'll know that the Anunnaki supposed god Enlil mated with and stole Surtur's wife, causing a huge conflict between the two, and eventually leading the other pantheon of Anunnaki gods to banish Enlil to inner earth. Now, it is believed that when Admiral Byrd flew over the opening in Antarctica and flew in it, he met with the beings of inner earth, and he met with pretty much Enlil himself, and he learned a lot about the origins of the planet and a lot about what resides in Antarctica and a lot about the people and the beings of inner earth. Another realm is Svartalfheim. This is the realm of the dwarves of magic and craftsmanship. It is said that this is the realm where all the weapons of the gods are created, such as Thor's hammer and Odin's spear. Then you have Helheim, which is the land of the dead. And the Greeks called this realm Hel, H-E-L, and it wasn't until it was Romanized to become a place of actual brimstone and fire. So this realm in the Greeks' version was a continuation of consciousness. Now, you also have Vanir. This is the realm of the dark elves who practice dark magic, who drain the life force of living creatures around them in order for their magic to be strengthened and fortified, in order for their magic to work. And then you have the realm of Ginnungagap. The realm called Ginnungagap is actually the primordial void. If you heard the story of Odin, I believe Odin actually imprisoned himself in this realm in order to reach a state of enlightenment. He imprisoned himself in this realm for quite some time, and he ended up eventually reaching his enlightenment through his death and rebirth. Now, the book of Numbers actually described the Nephilim as about 450 feet tall. It states that they ate pretty much everything, and once everything was gone, they started eating the humans and they started eating each other. And it wasn't until archangels went to God and plead for an intervention, and God agreed to have the archangels, or not the archangels, but God agreed to have the watchers, binded and imprisoned. He stated that they should bind Samyaza and all of the watchers for 70 generations in the valleys of earth until the day of judgment. They ordered that Azazel be bound by hands and feet in the desert and throw a mountain on top of him and cover his face. Gabriel, the archangel, suggested that letting the Nephilim and the watchers tear each other apart through civil war. God actually cursed the spirit of the Nephilim. The ancient energy that is associated with the Nephilim was cursed. And this is where it is said that evil spirits come from. It is said that evil spirits are actually Nephilim. Now, Nephilim, they're not considered demons themselves, but they're considered the origins of demons. And the women who birthed the Nephilim were said to be turned into sirens. Stay tuned for more of this. I'm going to be going more into detail about it. Like, subscribe, follow, be kind, be respectful of others, and yeah, hopefully everybody learns something from this, and I'm gonna keep dropping these videos. And
called me Flat Earth Dave, and it kind of stuck.
When people hear the term flat earth, I kind of feel, based on what you were saying in your conversation, I feel that the term flat earth in and of itself is a little misleading. And that's what I wanted to run past you. What are your thoughts on that? Especially after I heard your stance on and your explanations for what you meant what you mean when you say flat earth.
Yeah, if you take it literally, flat earth, it's not like a piece of paper flat. There's hills and valleys and trenches and mountains, but the world is flat. The world, they say, is 70% water. I think there's a lot more water than that, but let's just say it's 70% water. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, testably, scientifically, provably, measurably flat, and there is no curvature. So, if we take the size of the earth that they tell us, there's a curvature formula for that. We can use that curvature formula and we can see too far. That's the thing that got me. When I started looking into flat earth, I didn't look into flat earth because, oh, cool, flat earth. I went in kicking and screaming. I didn't want to hear it. I banned people from our social media for even suggesting that I look into flat earth. And then I was forced to look, and I went in with a closed mind. Like, I'm going to just disprove flat earth and prove the globe and be done with this and get all these morons to stop bothering me. And for 2 weeks, I tried to find one proof of the globe. I'm so confident that there's no proof of the globe. I'm offering a Bitcoin to anybody that can give me one proof of the globe, just one, right? And so far, I haven't had to give away my Bitcoin. So once you look, you can't unsee it. But they've brainwashed us since before we can talk into globe mentality. You know, kids are Sesame Street. It's all about the globe. They have astronauts and rockets on there, and the yip yaps talking about the sun and the moon and the Mars and all of this stuff. It's all propaganda to control our minds. And the question is why? Why would they lie? The shape of the earth doesn't matter. It's the lie that matters. The ball is a prison for your mind. They don't want your mind being able to realize where you are, what you are, who you are, and the power of your mind. And the analogy I use is Neo from the Matrix. At the beginning, his mind is trapped in the Matrix, and by the end of the movie, he freed his mind from the Matrix, and he became more powerful and knew the power of his mind. So that's why it matters.
So you started your journey looking to disprove what you were hearing as far as the earth being flat. And you know, there's a lot of evidence out there pointing towards, you know, one decision or the other. What was it that finally tipped you in the other direction?
Well, it's when I tried to find out why I believed in the globe. Well, the reason we believe in the globe is because Bill Nye, the line guy with the bow tie, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the failed actor, they told us it was a globe, but there's no science behind it. You know, people say flat earthers are science deniers. No, we love science, real science. There's no science of the globe. All science proves the earth is a flat, non-rotating plane. All physics, you know, the word physics is just a word, but actual physics prove the earth is flat. Think about this. The heliocentric model relies on the Big Bang, right? The Big Bang, everything, nothing exploded, became everything. Okay, that's crazy. And then all of the dirt and rocks, they coalesced into these big rocky balls. And then all of the gases coalesced into bigger balls with even more gravity, and they left a vacuum in between. How do you have a gas ball in a vacuum?
That's a great question. And you know, for some of our listeners that may not be as familiar with it, when you say heliocentric, you mean the model that involves, you know, Earth and the planets in our solar system rotating around the sun.
Right.
Right.
Here's the thing. People say, well, what about all the other planets? Are they flat? No, they're not planets. They used to be called wandering stars. They're lights in the sky within the Earth system. The Earth is not a pancake floating in space where you get to the edge and fall off. No, that the Earth is not a pancake with a Game of Thrones ice wall around it. That's a mind control case. Think of what a pond is. A pond is where water accumulates in the low spot in the land, and then the hills around the pond are the shoreline, you know, where it's higher than the water, right? So the world oceans are just, excuse me, a giant pond, a giant lake. So think about it. You have a giant lake. You have islands, which are all the continents that surround, you know, that are in the lake. Water surrounds them, but the water itself, the edge of the lake, is surrounded by land that's just higher than the water surface. And that land is the highest land on Earth. It's called Antarctica. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of a ball. Antarctica is the shoreline that surrounds our lakes. Antarctica is likely bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined, maybe hundreds of times bigger. We live in the Antarctic basin. We're not moving, and everything we see in the sky is rotating above us.
Yeah, you mentioned Neil deGrasse Tyson earlier and being a failed actor. And, you know, I had a brief thought for a moment when you mentioned that. And I feel like anyone that's listened to a podcast, or his podcast in particular, kind of agrees with what I'm about to say. You know, when he answers some of those questions, some of those complicated questions, he fires off these really in-depth answers, and a lot of them, Dave, they sound like they're rehearsed and scripted. Like, I mean, it'd be really tough to give those answers on the spot. You know what I mean? So
let me imitate Neil. Hey Neil, what is gravity? We don't know. We don't know what gravity is. You know, we can describe it. We can make equations about it, but we don't know. And as a matter of fact, gravity needs 96% or some high 90 percentile of dark matter and dark energy to make it work. And it still doesn't work. They have problems with modeling gravity because gravity is a nonsensical, ridiculous G. It's their god. Without gravity, they don't have their heliocentric model, and gravity is literally a joke. It's a theory. I'm not saying it's a theory. They say it's a theory, and so gravity doesn't exist. There is a downward force, in my opinion, and that has to do with electricity and magnetism, and it's completely different than mass attracting mass.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, I was going to mention that, part of what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned the term flat earth